Hello, we're here at Innovista Law, the house of the TCPA Defense Force. My name is Ernesto Mendieta.
And I'm John Nelson.
Hi John, and today I'm going to ask you a very important question. Is double opt-in required for text messaging under the TCPA?
Short answer, no, it is not.
Okay, that's pretty clear. So why is there a practice for double opt-in?
Sure. So under the TCPA, there are varying degrees of consent that a consumer is required to give in order to receive, again, varying types of messages, whether those be informational, marketing, etc. The benefit of double opt-in, although it isn't required, is that it essentially covers the basis for all of these messages. It provides the correct amount of consent for each varying kind. It is also a good practice because it essentially provides you with proof of that consent, a topic and an issue that we have seen come up in practice and in cases that we've researched many times as really the core issue of that TCPA litigation.
Okay, so we know that under the TCPA, you need to get consent in order to contact your consumers, and an acceptable and effective way of doing it is with a double opt-in.
Yes, yeah, it really is an effective way, again, because it provides proof of that. Okay. So if I could just, I guess, explain in a little bit of detail what that double opt-in looks like. I guess you have seen before, and you may have used as your own business a billboard as a call to action to get people to engage in one of your campaigns, where a consumer will text in a number to receive maybe some sort of deal or a chance to win some sort of lottery. But just texting in that number alone doesn't provide the correct consent, because the major issue is, was that consumer aware of the various terms and conditions that the TCPA requires you to provide that consumer with? A double opt-in will provide you with proof of that consent, because once that individual texts that keyword in, they will receive a response from the short code that outlines all of those TCPA terms, essentially placing them right before their eyes and requiring them to key in another word, I agree, yes, consent, in order to initiate that marketing campaign. And you now have a record of that consent, something you could bring forward if consent became an issue at trial.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you get sued and you're forced to go to court, instead of trying to prove when the consumer saw a specific billboard and when he consented to receive those text messages, you're going to have a specific information about that action.
Exactly. You're not going to be subjecting yourself simply to the memory of that consumer, asking him, in seeing that billboard, did you understand that consent is not a condition of purchase, that you agreed to receive auto-dialed calls?
Got it. I know another benefit of the double opt-in practice is, in addition to letting you comply with the TCPA, which is a law, it also allows you to comply with the CTIA guidelines. Can you tell us about that?
Correct. So I guess the initial point we should mention is that the CTIA guidelines, unlike the TCPA, are not law. They are not something that you could be brought into court for violating. Essentially what they are a list of best practices that are put out by the varying wireless carriers. Now granted, not complying with them could subject your business to having your short code suspended, possibly revoked in some serious cases, which obviously would be bad for your business. But again, it's not as strict or forcing violation upon you like the TCPA.
Okay, got it. So the double opt-in practice will allow you to comply with the TCPA and also with the CTIA guidelines.
Correct.
This double opt-in practice, you already explained how it works, but it can get a little complicated for small businesses because you have to either hire a platform provider or get those kind of services, and maybe they just want to do it through their own website. Can they do a similar practice through their website?
Sure. So for a lot of mom and pop shops, small businesses, they might not be sophisticated enough to know, understand, or engage in a double opt-in process. But again, double opt-in is not required under the TCPA. So there are various other ways in which a business can obtain consent from a consumer. One of the most practical that we have been seeing is the use of a click wrap agreement. Now, essentially, what a click wrap agreement is an online contracting form that proves consent. Of course, the law varies from state to state, and it's important that you check that law. But essentially, what it is in the process of a consumer engaging in perhaps a transaction or signing up for some membership rewards program or something, they will be clicking a check mark or signing their name in some box next to language, essentially including all of the relevant TCPA terms and a link to your terms and conditions.
Okay.
Now, again, it's important to reference that or note that the law varies from state to state on what is an acceptable and enforceable form of a click wrap agreement. But that is another means by which a business can obtain consent from a consumer and have proof of that.
That's an alternative way, but there are also certain standards and requirements that need to be fulfilled in order to be in compliance with the TCPA. So just to wrap up and coming back to our original question on double opt-in practice, it's not mandatory by the TCPA, but it's a good practice that allows you to comply with those requirements. And we have seen it in action, and it seems like a proper way to comply with the TCPA. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
We're here at Innovista Law, the house of the TCPA Defense Force. Thanks for watching.